A compelling narrative of tenacity and misfortune lies concealed under the breathtaking appearance of the Hungarian Parliament building. Every great city has at least one building that serves as its symbol. The iconic structure in Sydney is the Opera House. The Eiffel Tower can be found in Paris. The Empire State Building can be found in New York. Since it was finished in 1902, the Hungarian Parliament building in Budapest has been the city's most enduring icon, and it is considered to be a magnificent neo-Gothic masterpiece. This building is known as the European Gem. In the same way as the towers and dome of the Hungarian Parliament dominate the Danube, the Houses of Parliament in London, which served as the inspiration for the design of the structure, loom huge over the River Thames. In point of fact, one of the greatest places to take in its magnitude and magnificence is from the river, particularly in the evening and around dusk, when it is beautifully lit up. More than 600,000 people visit the Parliament building every year, and with good reason, according to the results of TripAdvisor's Traveler's Choice Awards in 2018. It ranks higher than the Acropolis, Rio's Christ the Redeemer statue, and even the Great Wall to become one of the top 25 landmarks in the world. It is helpful to have some familiarity with the complicated history of Hungary in order to comprehend the origins of the structure and the significance it holds for the Hungarian people, who refer to themselves as Magyars. At the turn of the first millennium, Hungary converted to Christianity, and because of its location in Eastern Europe, the country has always regarded itself to be the region's primary defense against the expansion of Islam. Despite this, the country was conquered by the Ottoman Empire in the early 1500s and remained under Turkish administration until the powerful Habsburg dynasty of Austria assisted in removing the Turks from power in the 1680s and 1690s. Despite this, the country was eventually overrun by the Ottoman Empire. However, the Magyars have not yet achieved their freedom. The Habsburg dynasty effectively ruled the country until 1867, when, in response to mounting calls for Hungarian independence, a dual monarchy was established through an agreement known as the Austro-Hungarian Compromise. During this time, the Habsburgs brutally put down a revolution in 1848 and 1849. It was against this backdrop that Hungarian reformers, philosophers, and artists first started lobbying for the development of a new parliament building, which they called an országház, which literally translates to House of the Nation. The thought was expressed most eloquently by the Hungarian poet Mihaly Vörösmarty, who said, "The motherland does not have a dwelling." On the Pest side of the city, the two towns of Buda and Pest were merged in 1873, directly opposite the Habsburg-occupied royal palace on the other side of the Danube. A location was selected, and it could not have been more openly anti-Austrian. In the year 1880, a contest for the design of a building was launched, and one of the participants, the Hungarian architect Emir Steindl, was selected. Steindl's vision was monumental. It was a neo-Gothic pile that would eventually cover an area of 18,000 square meters, stretch 268 meters in length, and stand 96 meters tall. It would have 691 rooms and approximately 20 kilometers of stairs. Steindl's vision was inspired by the Houses of Parliament in London. In 1885, the cornerstone of the building was laid, and at the time, there were high expectations that it would be finished in time to celebrate Hungary's 1000th anniversary in 1896. 1902 was the year that the building was officially opened for business, despite the fact that it had been inaugurated the previous year. Tragically, Steindl had gone blind while the building was being constructed, and he passed away just a few weeks before the building was officially opened. Steindl's design for the building utilized a wide variety of architectural styles, including Renaissance and Baroque, despite the fact that the structure's primary architectural motif is neo-Gothic. The impressive dome is often regarded as a masterpiece of Renaissance architecture. The north and south wings are joined together by the 27-meter-tall dome hall, which serves as the structure's focal point and forms the structure's center. The Holy Crown of Hungary, a coronation crown in the manner of Byzantium that had been worn on the heads of the nation's rulers since the 12th century, is the star attraction of the hall, despite the fact that the hall itself is immensely elaborate. It has a fascinating history of its own, including being buried in a forest by the leader of an unsuccessful revolution in 1848 named Lajos Kossuth, being recovered by United States military forces in Austria at the end of World War II, and being stored at the United States Bullion Depository in Fort Knox until 1978, when it was eventually returned to Hungary by former President of the United States Jimmy Carter. The Országos is a great place to visit if you have a strong interest in mathematics and statistics. In the beginning, it was estimated that it would cost 18.5 million crowns, in 1900, approximately $8.6 million US dollars, but the final figure was closer to 38 million crowns, 17.8 million US dollars. It took around 40 million bricks, 40 kilograms of gold, and 500,000 carved ornamental stones to build it. Additionally, the walls were decorated with carved ornamental stones. In addition, Steindl infused his design with the symbolism of numerical sequences. For example, the height of the dome is 96 meters, which commemorates the year that the Hungarian state was established, 896. The structure has a total of 365 towers, one for each day of the year, and the magnificent main staircase has 96 steps. However, the skyscraper has a total of 365 towers. The Hungarian Parliament building served as a symbol of a nation that was undergoing economic and cultural expansion over the first 40 or so years or so of its history. It was regarded as a beacon of Hungary's independence at this time. On the other hand, the outbreak of World War II would signal the beginning of a terrible era in history. When the Red Army encircled the Pearl of the Danube on Christmas Eve 1944, Hungary had already suffered the loss of around 200,000 men throughout the struggle against the Soviet Union. During the conflict, Hungary had cooperated with the Axis powers during the war. The infamous siege of Budapest, which would last for 50 days, had already begun. It is estimated that 160,000 people had been murdered by the month of February on both sides of the conflict, including 38,000 civilians. The Russians were responsible for the city's total destruction, which included the destruction of 32,000 buildings and every bridge. Thankfully, the damage to the Parliament building was not too severe. However, it was riddled with bullet holes, the majority of which were patched up during restorations in 2013. The Hungarian Revolution of 1956 was an insurrection against the Hungarian People's Republic, which was supported by the Soviet Union. During this rebellion, 2,500 Hungarians were killed and 200,000 were forced to flee their country. The most notorious event took place at the Országos. It began as a non-violent student demonstration in front of the building, but quickly became violent. The state security police opened fire on students, resulting in the death of one student and adding gasoline to the fire that was already burning. More than half a century later, as hundreds of thousands of tourists flocked to the Hungarian Parliament building, it is important to remember that the Országos also holds memories of a history that is both complicated and tragic. This is especially important given the striking architectural significance that the Országos possesses. On today's Best of the Balkans tour, you will get to discover Budapest, the current location of the Hungarian Parliament buildings. The outside of the Hungarian Parliament buildings is gorgeous, and they are included in the primary UNESCO World Heritage Site in Budapest. If you want to enjoy the view, you can sit in a cafe on the square. It is important to keep in mind that the Hungarian Parliament buildings may only be explored through the medium of a guided tour. Tours in English are offered often, although spots on them fill up rapidly during the warmer months. It is recommended that you make a reservation in advance with Jegymister if you are constrained by a set amount of time. It is well worth your time to take the tour. Getting a glance inside the opulent rooms is always a treat, and there is a certain kind of magic and wonder that is produced by buildings that have been trodden by such strong individuals all over the world. Finding your way to the buildings of the Hungarian Parliament. The closest metro station is Kossuth Lajos tér, which is only a few minutes walk away from the buildings, which are located on the Danube River. On the other hand, the buildings are conveniently located a short distance from other points of interest in the center district of Budapest. Thank you for being with us. Don't forget to subscribe our channel.